Yo, what is good YouTube? Welcome back to another Movie Monday, or tier list for Movie Monday, I guess you can say. And today we'll be ranking basically all of the Final Destination movies, because within basically this week of like this video being recorded, Final Destination, I think it's called New Bloodline, is being released. And there will be a Movie Monday for that. And I'm sorry for no previous Movie Mondays, because I really haven't seen a movie that I really wanted besides Thunderbolts, which I have not watched yet. But now enough happened. Now let's start off the movie ranking with the first Final Destination.
There they go. Here we stay.
Getting into Final Destination 1, honestly, I would say probably my second favorite movie of the franchise, because there's 5 movies and I think it does slowly progressively get worse. Man, trust me, that fourth one I think is probably the worst one out of all of them. But talking about the first one so far, I personally I think the premise of just like the concept of a person having a vision that would starts the death of others and how like you cheat death, it's just great. You know, the characters are great with the, what's it called, I can't remember their names, but like the main character's a great actor. There are some wishy-washy acting and the plots can get a little confusing, but I think the premise of the plane, I think, made everyone when that movie came out watching it and futures to come to be terrified of planes. It's one reason why I'm scared of planes. I can't lie. Besides me being terrified of heights, this movie did, I think, elevate that fear for me, because just like a plane crashing just being such like a crazy concept to me that is like, it just created such a fear for me. And then also too, just how each death was, from like the decapitation of what's it called, one of his friends, the choking, and also too like how each kill is teased, like what's it called with the visions, and also just the characters themselves like kind of building up the tension of their own death, I think is also great. There are some flaws though, I think, with just every Final Destination, just because the concept of itself is just so crazy. You have to be like in like the headspace of a Final Destination movie. Like this movie just concept is insane. But overall, I do think it's like this third to second best movie of the franchise. So for that, I'll be giving it a B ranking. Now getting into Final Destination 2. Now man, let me just tell you about popularity of a premonition. This movie's premonition with that log truck, dude, just everything was insane. I think the most memorable death for me in that premonition, I think, was the cop when he just got obliterated, just shot in the face with a log while he was cleaning his coffee. This whole premonition, I think, is the most iconic one too of all the movies. I think the plane one is the most realistic, because like, yes, plane exploding is not a foreign concept, like especially this year where like how many planes and helicopters have exploded. But this one, which is I think the most iconic for how brutal and as captivating it was throughout the whole premonition, and how brutal it just was. And even then, the premise, I think itself, is still the same. Like basically all the movies have the same concept. Someone has a premonition, they cheat death, the death goes for them in order, they try to break the cycle. So when it comes to like the story, it's kind of just all the same. It's just different characters, if that makes sense. Story the same, different characters, and it just depends on which characters you like the most, and also what type of deaths they have in the premonitions. I do think that some of the deaths in this are a little bit weaker than others. So like, I feel like one death is more crazy than the first movie, but the one movie from the first movie is crazier than the second one. I just think it varies what's called upon the death. Like, it's kind of hard ranking them because the general story is the same overall, but I think the characters from this movie, I think, are a little bit better. Also, to get a returning character from their first movie, which is called, I can't remember her name, but basically she survived. I'm not saying she survived longer than this movie though, that's all I'm saying. But I do think this is probably the best one out of all of them, and I'll be giving it an S tier ranking. Now getting into Final Destination 3, which I think elevated one of my other fears, roller coasters, because I think my two biggest fears are roller coasters and planes. Roller coasters because, again, heights. I'm just terrified of heights. I hate the feeling of drops where like your balls are in your stomach. I hate that feeling. And this movie just elevated that fear by more. But just like, this franchise has such a great way of just taking simplistic everyday things, like going to a roller coaster, traveling on a plane, just driving through the highway, and making you scared of it, making generations scared of it. But the premonition of this one was a roller coaster, basically a high school field trip, kind of like Rad Night, where they just basically all go on a roller coaster. It goes terribly wrong, but then obviously the person having premonition kind of, just warns everyone, hey, don't go in there, don't do that thing. But then obviously they cheat death, and basically what happens with that, I think, is crazy. I do think this one, I think, has the most brutal kills with the nail gun, the freaking weights crushing the guy's head, the freaking engine to the back of the dome in the drive-through. Like, I do think also the train scene towards the end of the movie, I think this one does have, I think, the best kills when it comes to it overall, and for that reason I'll be giving it an A.
Have you all lost your fucking mind?
Alright, now starting with Final Destination 4, we don't talk about the 3D era, okay? The early 2010s were just a different time. The early 2000s were a different time for movies, alright? Freaking Happy Feet 3D. Every movie was just trying to be 3D. Alright, I think a little bit of Angry Birds, Madagascar Penguins. Also, a few other movies are just for 3D, alright? But this movie, I think, tried the 3D model. In my opinion, I think it made the movie worse. Also, too, I think this is where like the movies kind of took a dark, like the darkness shift, because I think the first two movies, even a little bit of the third one, had like a little bit of a grimy darkness to it. But this one, the fourth one, I think was a transition of like it being less dark and more like it being more like it's not dark, but it's like obviously because the concept is dark, people dying. But I think it took more of a left turn from the darkness, like it's like. For the first movie, most of the shots were in the darkness, you know, nighttime. I know the second one kind of the same concept. Third one as well, a little bit less. I think more jokes in the fourth one than the first one, because the first one more like serious, like I'm trying to survive. The fourth one's like, man, get out of here. You know, what am I doing? I want to go to the movies. You know, a lot of CGI deaths as well, which I'm not really a fan of. Some of the deaths were okay. I feel like the premonition wasn't that strong in this with just a NASCAR race. I do understand like how realistic that can be with just a lot of tragic accidents happening during those events of like NASCAR. But I will say, I think out of all this, I think the CGI just was terrible at the time. I think I kind of hate how they went away from the darkness of the movie. The premonition itself wasn't that great. And also the characters were not likable at all. Even though I will say some of the movies like I just talked about previously didn't have likable characters. But still, I think this one like has the most. For that reason, I will be giving it a D. Now for the most recent, air quote recent movie, which was Final Destination 5, even though the 6th one is coming out later this week when this video is being recorded. If not, it's probably already out. Final Destination 5, which honestly, I do think was a rebound from the 4th one, because man, that 4th one, I just like if you got any worse than that, I think the franchise would have been dead. Again, it still has that like not darkness to the movie. It doesn't have like the underlying dark tone of it or the premonitions or any of that. And I will say some of the deaths in these are actually a lot crazier than others. Like the Hook one, or the freaking I don't want to be disrespectful to religion, but my understanding, I think the Buddha one, where like the massage place, that one was terrible. But I do overall think that the premonition of this movie, I think, was also lackluster, with the bridge basically collapsing. Obviously, it was co-workers going on like a little business trip. The bridge collapses. The guy obviously tells everyone get off the bridge. Death comes for them again. But I do think this movie does have some flaws, not as much as the 4th one. And I do also like the ending of it, where what's it called? Basically, this movie ties into the first one, which I think was just a crazy twist when I watched it. I did not expect the 5th movie to tie into the first one. I was like, what? Like, that's insane. Also, too, I do like that ending too as well. How like it just kind of goes full circle with everything being told. And I do think, if I'm not mistaken, everyone from the previous Final Destinations is on that plane. So like the first, second, third one, like I think all of them are on that plane. And I do think like that is how they all die, if I'm not mistaken. But some of the deaths in this are all right. The characters are pretty decent. I mean, I feel like there wasn't really that many hated characters in my opinion. But overall, I do think it was a pretty decent film. I would probably put it like the middle of the ground. So for that reason, I'll be giving it a C. Also, too, another thing I want to address, R.I.P. Tony Todd, he will be missed. I do wish he was in every movie. I think he was in, 2 to 3 of these movies. I don't think he was in all of them. I wish he was, because he's just such a great character. And it's like such an underlying like mystery, like who is this character as a whole in the movie, and like what significance does he have? Obviously, he's most likely just death itself, you know, in the movies. Also, too, like the fact he played Candyman, also like in another horror franchise. You know, the legend will be missed. But that was my ranking of each Final Destination movie. Comment down below what I think I got wrong, what I got right. You know, your favorite destination movie, and if you guys are excited for the new one to come out. I'm excited for it to come out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, please like, subscribe, and comment for more. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.